Coming up tomorrow on the 5 o'clock Eyewitness News, a Brooklyn man who is about to become $3 million richer. He has won the lottery.
With Ernie Anastas, and you know it's always a pleasure working with you.
Indeed.
I'm Roseanne Scamardella, hoping your evening is just as nice as you want it to be. Now, with the 6 o'clock Eyewitness News, Roger Grimsby and Bill Butel. Gentlemen.
Tonight we begin with a killing in Greenwich Village. An 82-year-old woman shot once in the neck. Police would like to know why. And we'll have the latest on that, plus these reports.
A Bronx man has an accident on the way to work and vanishes into thin air. I'm Mark Haynes. I'll have that story.
Scandy is innocent, only defending himself against an intruder. So says the Parks Department in the wake of the clawing to death of a derelict who got into the 1,200-pound polar bear's cage. I'm John Johnson, and I'll have that report.
Marriage is up, divorce is down. Is that a changing trend? I'll have a special report tonight. Spencer Christian will talk to Howard Cosell about Monday without football. And Roger Sharp will begin a special report on the ugly side of high fashion, the glitch behind the glamour. In a moment on Eyewitness News at 6.
At A&P, just look for this green pea.
It's another week of green price specials at A&P. Get delicious fresh whole Purdue chickens, only 49 cents a pound, 2 3/4 pound average. And with a coupon and a $7.50 purchase, you pay only 39 cents a roll for Vanity Fair 2-ply jumbo paper towels. Also this week, it's only 69 cents a pound for juicy California white seedless grapes.
Come on in, we'll watch our P's and Q's.
My coffee cup.
A spoonful makes a mugful when it's Maxim.
That's rich.
My cup.
A spoonful makes a mugful when it's Maxim.
That's rich.
Compared to this other leading freeze-dried coffee, Maxim concentrates 27% more coffee into every spoonful. Instead of a cup, Maxim makes a mugful.
My cup. A spoonful makes a mugful when it's Maxim.
That's rich.
Maxim, the spoonful rich enough for a mugful.
Winner, 1982 Fragrance Foundation Award for Design, Missoni. The Missoni Fragrance Collection. The fragrance, a masterpiece woven of fresh country flowers and warm, spicy notes. Elegant, sensual, and very rich. Missoni, another great Italian work of art.
Now Saks Fifth Avenue, a special Missoni purse spray, only $8.50, Bellissima. Day of disaster tonight, 7:30. This is Eyewitness News with Roger Grimsby, Bill Butel, plus Spencer Christian, Dr. Bill Gutch for Storm Field, and the Eyewitness News team.
Good evening, I'm Roger Grimsby. Here now the news. An 82-year-old woman, one of the most recent victims of murder in New York. It happened in her Greenwich Village home. A maid discovering the elderly lady with a bullet wound in her neck. Will Spence tell us police have few leads. They aren't sure yet of the motive.
A half block west of Washington Square Park, 82-year-old Etta Saltzman was shot and killed either Sunday night or very early Monday morning. Police don't know exactly when, nor do they know who did it.
There's no indication that she had any enemies. Everybody seemed to like her.
Etta Saltzman had lived in her building for more than 20 years. She was known in the neighborhood as an independent woman, and news of her death was a shock to those who knew her.
She was a lovely woman. She was religious. She had just lost her sister about a year ago.
She was an old lady, nice lady, you know, everybody likes her on the building.
Very good woman. She was a whack in the World War II.
There are a lot of things not known about the death of Etta Saltzman, but at this point, police suspect they do have a motive.
2 drawers were found open in her bedroom in slight disarray. So there is the possibility that a burglary may have taken place or attempted to take place.
So police say the apparent motive was robbery, and the neighbors say that although this is a very good block, there is a problem. They say there's a problem with Washington Square Park and the people who drift in and out of this block on their way to that park.
Our favorite words was stay well and be well. You know, she was I think it's a tragedy.
I mean, when you get a murder in your own building, that is frightening, isn't it? People do keep their doors open, and I don't know that she did, but I've seen doors open, and that's obviously the wrong thing to do today.
She used to open her door a lot, you know, like to see if the mayor was there or if she saw anybody, and I'm just afraid that maybe, I don't know whether she was found by the door or in a bed.
In the living room?
In the living room. So she may have opened the door and somebody may have pushed her into the living room.
So that is it. An 82-year-old woman shot and killed, a single bullet in the side of the head. Police call it an apparent robbery, but officially they're calling it a mystery. Will Spence, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Another case tonight. A 3-year-old boy is dead, and apparently he was a victim of child abuse. His mother's under arrest, and police in Irvington, New Jersey report the body of Sean Neasley was found in his mother's apartment over the weekend. They say he'd been beaten. Apparently he'd been choked. There were marks to be found on his neck and on his face. Police were told by the boy's mother that he'd been hurt in a fall, but they don't believe that. They booked Mrs. Renee Neasley and her boyfriend Alan Bass, charged them with assault. They may file more charges in connection with the death of young Sean Neasley.
Police in the Bronx are trying to solve a mystery tonight, the mystery of a cab driver who disappeared on his way to work. Mark Haynes to tell us. The only clues seem to come from an auto accident.
Charles Victor Tomlinson has worked for the same cab company in Queens for 20 years. Saturday morning, he left his home in the Bronx for work at the usual time. A few hours later, his car was found smashed up on the Bronx River Parkway, along with another car. But there was no one around to tell the police what had happened.
When the first highway car came upon the scene, there was nobody here, neither of the drivers, and they checked, and the car in the rear was reported stolen.
The cops investigating wrote down occupants of the car fled the scene and thought no more about it. But the mystery was only beginning. Charles Tomlinson had not just disappeared from the scene of the accident. He had disappeared completely. Here on Paulding Avenue in the Bronx, the disappearance has left a family living here completely stumped and very worried. Tomlinson's wife, Esther, waited until 6:30 Saturday night, thinking her husband was at work. When she called to find out where he was, she got a shock.
I couldn't believe the man. I called him again. I said, "Are you telling me doubles?" He said to me, "No, lady, he didn't show up."
When the family contacted police and police realized it was not just a routine traffic accident, they came back here and they combed these dense woods, hoping to find a trace of the missing cabbie. They didn't. Meantime, his family members were also looking.
I went to the hospitals in the neighborhood, 3 of them, and to check to see if any missing persons was admitted, or even if they had his name, because he had a lot of identifications on him.
But that too was a dead end. Tomlinson was not in any hospital, not at any police station. The only people who know what happened out here on the Bronx River are the people who were involved in the accident, and they cannot be found. The police don't know what happened. Charles Tomlinson's family doesn't know what happened. All they know is that since Saturday morning, there has not been a trace of him.
Nothing at all.
Now, there was no blood in Tomlinson's car, no evidence of foul play at all. The car that hit him, though, had been stolen. Tomlinson could be dazed from the collision, wandering in the area, unsure of where he is or who he is. The other possibility, one his family really doesn't want to think about, is that the people in the stolen car that hit him decided not to leave him around as a witness. Bill?
Thank you, Mark. The FBI has arrested 4 people here in New York and in California. They are said to be the remaining leaders of the FALN, the Puerto Rican nationalists and terrorists. They and another man, who is expected to surrender, are charged with criminal contempt, this for refusing to cooperate in a grand jury investigation of 31 bombings, including the bombing that killed 4 people at the Francis Tavern in Lower Manhattan back in 1975. The arrested 4 are Julio Rosado, Andres Rosado, Stephen Guerra, and Mario Cueto. Ricardo Romero is the one whose surrender is still expected. And there are new details tonight about the massacre this weekend in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. Prison guard George Banks killed 13 people in a fit of anger over a child custody battle. 5 of the victims were his own children. It's now reported that Banks had lost his job as a prison guard 3 weeks ago because he threatened to commit suicide in his guard tower. It's also reported that Banks was told to undergo psychiatric treatment. What is not known is if he ever did that. In any event, he's to be arraigned tomorrow.
In Manhattan, the man killed by a polar bear at Central Park Zoo is now identified as a Cuban immigrant who became a drifter in New York. Conrado Moniz climbed into the bear's cage yesterday. His body was found a few hours later. Frightening story, but as John Johnson reports, it's not the bear's fault.
A killer bear? No, says the Parks Department. The 1,400-pound polar bear, the victim of an intruder that he clawed to death early Sunday morning.
We think that the bear behaved as a normal bear. That is to say, at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock in the morning, an intruder entered its space. It appears to have defended itself, and once it perceived the attack as being over, it did not maul the body or rip it apart. It went back to its business, so to speak. So we don't think that the bear is at fault or did anything other than what a normal bear would do in the circumstances.
Scandy, a 9-year-old polar bear who has lived in his lair at the Central Park Zoo since 1975, when another polar bear by the same name had to be shot by police when he refused to release the arm of a not-too-smart animal lover, looked rather placid today in the wake of killing a derelict who climbed into Scandy's pen. The derelict had tried first to get into the lion cage and then tried to visit Tina, a very large pachyderm, but was chased from the zoo by attendants. But somehow, during the wee hours of Sunday morning, came back and climbed in with Scandy. According to the medical examiner, the derelict died as a result of cuts and puncture wounds to his head, neck, arms, and chest.
Well, is anybody at fault here? Is the park at fault?
The fault is a greater fault. It is in a society that has not yet been able to find out the remedy for the plague of hundreds of homeless people and mentally disturbed people.
Even today, homeless men who make the park their home were either wandering about the zoo or just waking up from sleeping on the park benches.
But you have nowhere to go, so you live here in the park?
Yeah.
You live here in the zoo?
Yeah.
In the zoo? Zoo attendants complain that the biggest problem they have is keeping the people away from the animals. One zookeeper told me that it's not just the derelicts, but young and old, male and female alike, who come into the zoo who annoy the animals. Not only that, they try and pet them by sticking their arms through the cage bars.
They feel that, you know, being that the animals look passive, that they can put their hands in and pet them, you know. And I try to explain to them it's not like that, even though they're in the cage, you know. They still can be pretty dangerous animals.
I asked several visitors to the zoo whether the polar bear should be punished for clawing the derelict to death. The sentiment was unanimous in favor of the bear.
Someone intruded his domain, and I think if he would have been left alone, nobody would have got hurt.
Polar bear Scandy will soon have a new temporary home at the Bronx Zoo while the Central Park Zoo is rehabilitated. Part of that rehabilitation will make it more difficult for any contact with the animals. Even though this is the first fatality in the Central Park Zoo history, the Parks Department doesn't want it to happen again. So they will have to better protect the animals from man and man from the beast. Bill.
Thank you, John. When Eyewitness News continues in just a moment, we'll have the story of an anti-Semitic bombing overseas and a special report on what is called the Other Israel.
We'll also be talking about a drop in the divorce rate, and we'll have this report.
Can you believe some people consider this making a living? I'm Roger Sharp, inside the multi-million-dollar model market. Tonight's special report. You get paid for this?
Listen to WPAT, FM 93 or AM 93. It gives the people who live in the World Showplace a place to relax.
Some airlines don't let you know where you'll be sitting until you get on the plane.
Can we switch seats?
But on American Airlines,
you can select your seat when you make your reservation, so you know where you'll be sitting even before you get to the airport.
There must be some mistake, boss. Our seats aren't together. No mistake, Fletcher. Boss!
The hands of Concorde Centurion, the hands of Jimmy Connors. Powerful, elegant, ultra-thin, very flexible. The Concorde Centurion makes the bulky sports watch passé. 18-karat gold. The Concorde Centurion.
It's so comfortable, I don't even know it's on.
Water-resistant, electronic quartz, handcrafted in Switzerland. For him or her, the Concorde Centurion. Available at Tiffany & Company, 5th Avenue at 57th Street.
Whether you drive a Porsche 911, whether you drive a Porsche 944, whether you drive a Porsche 928, Porsche, nothing even comes close.
The White House says the 1,200 American Marines offshore Lebanon will probably go ashore Wednesday. Israel is finally bowing to U.S. pressure to get all of its troops out of Beirut before the Americans go in. The Israeli pullout is going on right now. In Beirut today, French and Italian members of the peacekeeping force took up positions around the Palestinian camps where hundreds of refugees were killed 10 days ago. Inside, more bodies keep turning up beneath the mass graves dug by the killers. A funeral service for the victims was held in one of the camps today. This, as reports from Israel said, Prime Minister Begin would finally agree to complete an inquiry into the massacres. Begin is apparently being pressed in that decision by cabinet ministers threatening to quit. The protests against alleged Israeli complicity in the massacre apparently took a violent turn in West Germany today. Police say 4 bombings aimed at airlines, an American business, and a travel agency in Frankfurt were probably carried out by anti-Israeli terrorists. One man was killed in those bombings. Other protests against Israel are coming from Italian dock workers who are refusing to service Israeli ships, and from the Presbyterian Church of the United States, which has asked President Reagan to end all military and economic aid to Israel.
Roger Sharp is in the Middle East, and he's been telling us about the reaction in Israel to the massacre in Beirut. Tonight in his report from the Middle East, he tells us about the feelings of Palestinians in the Israeli-occupied West Bank.
But it's not anymore beautiful. Echoes of Beirut haunt the home front. Army and police patrols have been noticeably increased in the Arab areas of Israel after scattered episodes of violence this week. Dozens hurt, dozens more arrested. Here in Nablus, the largest Palestinian town on the occupied West Bank, the atmosphere is tense. Rooftop Israeli soldiers keep a constant eye on the busy square below. The Army and we are concerned that our camera might provoke an incident, so we make a fairly fast tour, moving so we don't attract a crowd in one spot. But the people are very polite and friendly, urging us, though, to show the painful pictures from Beirut portrayed in Arabic newspapers. Through the crowded Casbah is always a fascinating experience, like stepping back to another time. We've been here in Nablus before, and one is always struck by this very separate culture, living its uneasy coexistence with the far different Jewish Israel. Even though occupation now has lasted for more than 15 years, these Palestinians have changed their ways very little, if at all. Economically, of course, many have been Israelized in that they work in Jewish areas but return here each day, maintaining their special lifestyle. The market area, like the surrounding historic hills, unchanged through the decades. As we observed in last year's report from here, a place like the Palestinian issue itself, frozen in limbo. This is the village of Batiba, an ancient village, largely a farming community of about 3,000 people. Most of the Palestinians have been here for generations. Here we're invited to the house of Muhammad Ali. He's the man smoking the water pipe. He works for an Israeli building firm, but his wife, 4 sons and daughter live in this old house, just as the family's previous generations did. The grandfather joins us for the traditional thick coffee. Son Naja and his friend Abdul are both teachers in nearby Palestinian schools. The plight of their people, what happened in Beirut, very much on their minds.
The people, the Palestinian people who live in the camps of Lebanon, Shtil and Sabra, are Palestinian. And they are our brothers, our relatives. If you have a relative in Palestine, for example, and I attack him, what shall you do with me? You must attack me.
Do you ever expect that this West Bank area will become a separate state, separate country?
West Bank?
In your lifetime, or do you think it'll always be part of Israel?
I think that a large number of people in our country agree to live with Israeli people. In West Bank, yes.
Naja insists that families like his are proof the Palestinians can live in peace with Israel and could find harmony as 2 separate side-by-side states. An ideal, he believes, will not ever happen unless the United States is the architect to make it so. From the other Israel, Roger Sharp, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
And in Israel, government offices and almost all businesses were shut down for Yom Kippur. This is the holiest day on the Jewish calendar, and 9 years ago, Egypt chose this moment to attack because the entire country of Israel comes almost to a halt. Here in New York, observant Jews lined up to attend Yom Kippur services. Yom Kippur is the Day of Atonement, the day when Jews look back at the sins of the past year and pray for forgiveness. The observance of Yom Kippur began at sundown yesterday and ends at sundown tonight, momentarily.
When we continue, we'll be talking about air travel.
And Vince Lipari, with a sheikh who wants to buy Woolco. We'll find out why.
The excitement of nighttime thoroughbred racing is back on the track at the Meadowlands.
The home of the thoroughbred treatment is once again the home of the thoroughbreds.
If you love good food and great service, join us for a night at the Meadowlands.
And for a sound entertainment investment, the Meadowlands pays off in fun and excitement.
So come on, treat yourself to an evening that's very special at a special place.
The Meadowlands, the home of the thoroughbred treatment.
I miss you, Mama. I miss the city, too.
What if we sent you a little bit of your hometown?
Now, how you gonna do that? White Castle hamburgers from back home. You can't get them out here. My folks sent them.
Hey! Time to get White Castle! White Castle!
You know, on my first date, we stopped at a White Castle. White Castle has the taste so people won't live without.
All wide bodies start out roomy. Then, on most airlines, that space fills up. But on TWA, it's different. TWA has a separate business class that's spacious and comfortable. And it's on every wide body flight. TWA's ambassador class has bigger, wider seats and fewer of them, with room for longer legs and wider bodies. Couldn't have said it better myself.
You're gonna like us, TWA.
We're in San Francisco's world-famous Blue Fox restaurant to secretly replace the fine coffee they ordinarily serve with Folgers instant coffee crystals. Are Folgers dark, sparkling crystals rich enough to top off a world-famous dinner? Let's see.
It tasted really rich.
Hey, you can let us know so we can go out and buy it. It's Folgers crystals.
I can't believe it, that it's an instant coffee.
It's very rich.
Folgers crystals. Coffee rich enough to be served in America's finest restaurants.
There was a fatal accident on the Brooklyn-Queens Expressway this morning. Of course, it snarled up the traffic of the day, but it also, and more importantly, gave police a mystery to solve. 2 cars were involved in an accident in the rain, and when one of the drivers got out to check on damage, he was hit and killed by a mail truck. Police say their investigation has not confirmed the identity of the victim, but he may be a man whose relatives had reported him missing several months ago. We know very little bit more than that. In any event, nobody else was hurt in that accident.
There are charges the government passed some failing air controller candidates, and that charge is now the subject of a federal grand jury investigation. According to the allegations, they were passed in order to fill the vacancies caused by the walkout. Well, filling your car up with gasoline is still quite expensive. You may not have noticed, but gasoline prices have actually been dropping. According to the latest figures, the average price of gasoline is now $1.27, a full 11 cents less than the all-time high that was reached in 1981, when gas was selling for $1.38. Oil experts say cash discounts and self-service pumps are helping bring down the prices. They also credit greater competition in the industry.
An Arab sheikh may be trying to give a good shake to a popular American store chain that's in a lot of trouble. The sheikh has reportedly told his lawyers to come here to New York to rescue the Woolco department stores, whose failure we announced the other day. Its owners, the Woolworth Company, plan to close the stores because they're simply draining away money. And Vince Lipari tells us the sheikh involved is no stranger to spectacular events involving money.
Meet Arab Sheikh Mohammed Al-Fassi. He is from Saudi Arabia and very, very rich. The billionaire has been quoted as saying he wants to come to the rescue of the 25,000 Woolco employees and buy up the failing chain, which is set to close early next year. Now, if you don't remember the Sheikh, he was the one who some years ago had his Beverly Hills mansion landscaped with a whole bunch of brightly painted nude statues. I guess he could put a whole string of them here on the curb to keep the shopping carts from going into the parking lot. It might work. How do the Woolco employees we talked to feel about possibly working for an Arab boss?
Be good for the company, you know, for the employees and everything if it comes through.
Yeah.
But let's put it this way, we got our fingers crossed.
It doesn't really make a difference as long as somebody's willing to help me put food on my table for my wife. I'll work for anybody.
Sheikh Al-Fassi is no stranger to this country. He has been connected with attempts to save an obscure Jacksonville T men's soccer club, building a city named after him in the Southwest, and other eccentric ventures. Among the Sheikh's other exploits is when he tallied up a $1.5 million tab at the Hotel Diplomat in Hollywood, Florida, in which he and his staff stayed. Well, apparently he refused to pay the bill, so the hotel sued him for $1.5 million. He then paid the bill, but then he countersued the hotel for $1 billion on the grounds of that he was being harassed. Well, with that kind of reputation, one wonders on what conditions he would give people refunds if he would give them at all. How do Wilco shoppers feel about a possible takeover?
I don't like it.
Why not?
Well, because I think it should be an American organization.
I feel they've already taken over so many different businesses, really, that you buy anyway.
Well, Sheikh Mohammed Al-Fassi, we understand, is currently in Florida and has given his attorney till October 5th to consummate a deal with Wilco. Time will tell whether the whole affair is merely show or substance. On Long Island, this is Vince Lipari, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
When we continue, how Baltimore is trying to cover up a problem.
And we'll have a special report on what appears to be a trend in the divorce rate.
How do you get a vital document from your desk to one across the world? Hand it to DHL Worldwide Courier Express, for whom the world is one big desk. DHL delivers your documents safely, on time, by hand. And if our worldwide offices can't help you, who on earth can? DHL Worldwide Courier Express. You couldn't express it better.
1928 was an excellent year for beans.
Nice chickpeas today, Tony.
Imported, Mrs.
That's when Progresso introduced the select beans that became a tradition among bean lovers. Today, our imported chickpeas are the finest you can buy. Our red and white kidney beans are grown from special seeds by our own growers. And all Progresso beans are checked for size and quality. So for the best beans, make it Progresso or make it yourself.
Oh, Tony, your kidney beans are the best.
Special seeds, Mrs. Delgado. Special seeds.
In Bavaria, where once they built legends of stone, today they build legends of steel. Introducing the new Audi 5000 Turbo Diesel. High-technology turbo diesel engineering with extraordinary diesel fuel economy. Yet all the power of a turbo. From the old world to the new world. The new Audi 5000 Turbo Diesel. Audi, the art of engineering.
You know, a lot of my friends like Chablis. And if you like Chablis, you're going to love Folonare Suave. Folonare Suave is a lot like a good Chablis. Only Folonare Suave has a little bit drier taste, and like many of the world's finest wines, Folonare Suave is imported. So, like many of my friends, if you like Chablis, you're going to love Folonare Suave.
No question, there's been a trend in our country toward divorce, but money is tight, and the government says that is bucking the trend. People can't afford divorce as easily as they could a few years ago. So the rate of divorce has dropped just a bit.
Do you think about getting married?
Mm-hmm.
Does the possibility of divorce worry you or keep you from getting married?
No.
No?
No, it doesn't.
That young lady is not likely to have a wedding like this, nor a marriage that compares in many ways to the one that Charles and Diana have. But for the moment, at least, her marriage has a slightly better chance of surviving than it did a couple of years ago, perhaps because money is tight. Nobody thinks about it, but the history of divorce does say that it increases in good times and is less frequent in bad.
The divorce rate shows fluctuations too closely associated with the changes in the economy for one to draw any other conclusion.
The divorce rate is down very slightly, but the absolute number of divorces continues to increase, and no one believes we're seeing a major shift in patterns of divorce and marriage. The most that can be said is that for the moment, marriage seems statistically a little safer than it used to be.
The government says the rate of divorce is going down marginally, but marriage and divorce is not a matter of statistics. It's a matter of people.
We've been married now for a year. I agree that it's a risk. It's a part of life. It's a risk in life. It's my wife and myself. We have a very good working relationship. We know each other very well, and we're able to work out our relationship and continue to grow together.
Because you just have to take it one day at a time. I don't know what's going to be happening to me like 5-10 years from now.
Is one of the reasons you don't want to get married because of a fear of divorce?
Yes, it is.
Really?
Yeah, really. I don't want to have to go through a whole transitional period again.
All the talk of divorce does not scare you?
No, not at all. Not at all. Marriage is, you know, like I said, I'd get married if I met the right person.
How have you done it? How did you stick together for 36 years?
Well, we didn't expect perfection, and we expected difficulties and times that we didn't get along with each other, but we didn't think anything else would be better.
It is true we live in a time in which divorce is common and more accepted. Everyone knows somebody, inside or outside his family, who's been divorced. Interestingly, though, 100 years ago, it was said there was so much divorce that family and marriage were doomed. Still, the institution of family and the hope of a good marriage somehow do survive. Roger?
The John Lennon family when we continue.
And Spencer Christian does what all of you have always wanted to do. He's going to talk with Howard Cosell in just a moment. He's going to talk about Monday Night Football.
The last group you'd want to be representative of the American people.
Stouffer's pizza tastes like it does because of the tangy cheeses and spices, the rich, thick tomato sauce, and all those special toppings. And then we put all those good things on a crunchy French bread crust. So when you taste our pizza, you'll hear how good it is.
My brother Francis and I are in the business of saving souls. I also save money and budget. Francis goes elsewhere. Not only do I get the budget price, I get this tuck-away tote bag, free. On future rentals, I'll pick up certificates toward this entire collection. With all this free luggage, I may rent from budget for an eternity. Oh, Brother Francis. Perhaps you'd consider converting?
You get more than just a car at Budget.
Imitation dairy products in my cooking? Horrors. But how do you tell real dairy foods from imitations? Check the ingredient list or check for the real seal. It tells you at a glance it's a real dairy food. The American Dairy Association assures it. So, to get the taste of real cheese, real cream, read this or see the real seal. Frightfully simple.
You know it's real when you see the real seal.
Why do 100,000-mile flyers choose United?
When I invented the Hobie Cat, I helped a lot more people to enjoy the coast of California. Now United does the same thing with non-stops to the West Coast every day.
Including 4 non-stops to Los Angeles and 3 to San Francisco every day.
With all this service, plus advanced check-in, United makes doing business in California a real pleasure.
People who fly for a living by United's friendly skies.
People in the news tonight, a bit of insight into the late John Lennon and his life with Yoko Ono. In Rolling Stone magazine, it is written that Yoko took care of business and John raised their son and baked the bread at home. It is written that she would come to business conferences in an Egyptian headdress and robe and would make no decisions without astrologers and other people whose worlds were the occult and the mystic. But her bank balance is pretty good, so who's to say they were wrong? Billy Graham, who ran into some trouble when he went to Russia to preach the gospel and said he thought there was a measure of religious freedom in the Soviet Union, is going now to East Germany and Czechoslovakia next month. No politics this time, says Billy Graham. Nothing but the gospel. Roger?
So we go even unto Spencer Christian with the sports.
Thank you, sir. As we move into week 2 of this NFL player strike, the owners and players appear to be as far apart in their respective positions as they were when the strike began last week. Yesterday's 5-hour negotiating session ended with Jack Donlan, executive director of the Management Council, explaining the owners' offer of $1.6 billion over 5 years, and Ed Garvey, head of the Players Union, saying there's no new offer. So the strike goes on. Last night on the Sunday Night Sports Special, Mike Barry asked the Jets' Ken Schroy and the Giants' Beasley Reese about losing the fan support because of the money players are making and the money they're demanding.
We realize, Mike, that we have a good deal going here and that we're making more than the average person can bring in. I think you have to compare us to the people who who have a similar type profession. You have to compare us to the hockey players and basketball players and baseball players.
Naturally, there's people that do not understand. They think we are paid enough money. If they were in our shoes, I'm sure they would. If they knew all the issues, I'm sure they would change their mind. Just like a lot of the guys won Donahue, they changed the whole crowd's mind. I think if they really sat down and talked to some of the players, they would change their minds. But as you well know, there are people out there struggling, and they think football players shouldn't be paid as much as they do yet.
Okay, one thing that we won't get tonight is Monday Night Football, and of course that means we won't get our weekly dose of the man whose name is synonymous with Monday Night Football, Howard Cosell. Now, I paid Howard a visit today in his Manhattan home and I asked him what's he going to do with his Monday nights now that there's no Monday Night Football.
Turn back the clock in the manner of Berkeley Square. Go back to 1970. See the shows I never saw. I Love Lucy, The Doris Day Show, Ronan Martin's Laugh-In, I Spy with Bill Cosby. Go through all of the years, those marvelous years, with Rhoda. This time I could go to Rhoda's wedding reception. Because you see, through all of the years, this was the competition they threw at us, and we weren't supposed to survive. But Monday Night Football did.
I don't suppose there are any tapes of special games you'll want to pull out and review.
No.
Those years past.
Not after 12 full years and having embarked on our 13th.
How do you think this strike is going to affect the way fans view football, and particularly the way they feel about the players? It appears to me that most of the fans' venom has been directed at the players.
I find that very interesting. I find that, and especially in New York, I don't find it anything around the country comparable to New York. I find that the mass creation of the sports writer. As a matter of fact, ABC News and the Washington Post took a poll, and the poll showed the fans, whomever the fans are, favoring the players by 2-1. Now, how does that grab you?
Now, that surprises me.
There is an absolute frenzy among the New York sports writers about the game, because you see their whole lives are wrapped up in the game. And I don't know whom you mean by fans. Do you mean the 250,000 building maintenance workers who are on strike? The 26,000 locomotive engineers who are on strike? The thousands of teachers in Michigan who are on strike, or out in Long Island? I assume they're fans. And nobody ever questioned their right to strike. 1,500 football players? Come on, let's get a sense of balance in this country.
I do hear a lot of people saying, though, small businessmen who claim to be football fans, that if someone who works for me in my shop came in and demanded 55% of my gross revenues, I'd tell them to take a walk. And these people seem to be the ones who feel that the players are making outrageous demands.
Well, in the manner of Hammerstein's lyrics in South Pacific, they've been carefully taught. And indeed, I personally believe that seeking a percentage of gross is an invasion of management prerogative. But that's part and parcel of a bargaining process. And collective bargaining process evolved out of many years of violent labor strife in these United States, with shoot-downs in the street. A fellow like you, Spencer, undoubtedly goes back to the 20s and the old Bethlehem Steel situation. But it's really amusing to see how out of whack all of this is. And every time you fellas go out to take a survey, you go to a fan in a bar. Why do you go to the bar? What is there symbolic about the guy who stands at the bar and drinks and says, "Give me the game, I want the game"? And does that really represent America?
Probably not, Howard. But then, again, maybe it does. We'll hear more from Howard tonight on the 11 o'clock Eyewitness Sports about how long he thinks the strike will go on. On to baseball. With 1 week left in the regular season, how tight can a divisional race get? Well, probably not much tighter than the National League West, where both Atlanta and San Francisco now trail the first-place Los Angeles Dodgers by only 1 game, thanks to a 3-game weekend sweep of the Dodgers by the Giants in L.A. Let's go to the highlights of yesterday's game with no score on the game. Bert Hooton on the mound. 5th inning, Jack Clark slices one inside third base. Joe Morgan comes around to score for the Giants, and it's a 1-0 Giants lead. Come on, Joe, tag the plate. There he is, a little dirty, too. Next batter, Darryl Thomas. Hits one deep to right. Get out of here, ball. That one's gone. A 2-run home run. The Giants lead 3-zip, and that's all they needed for a 3-2 victory. Some sad Dodgers in the dugout. So here's how that race shapes up. The slimmest of slim leads. Dodgers have a one-game lead over San Francisco and Atlanta. In the American League East, Milwaukee holds on to a 2-game lead over Baltimore. The Orioles showed that they can win in Milwaukee this weekend. Interestingly enough, these two teams play their last 4 games of the season against each other. In the American League West, California enjoys now a 3.5-game lead over Kansas City. It looks like the Angels will wrap that one up. And an even longer lead enjoyed by St. Louis over Philadelphia, 5.5 games. I'd say that one's just about over. Now, for the magic number for the Cardinals, it's down to 2 games now. That is, any combination of 2 Cardinal victories and Philadelphia defeats gives the title to St. Louis. And that brings us to an unintentionally funny item on the AP Sports Wires today, an explanation of how to figure the magic number. Now, we'll read it word for word, and if you can follow this, you can also follow our own special formulas for working out the Mets and Yankees magic numbers, okay? The AP tells us, first take the number of games the first-place team has left to play. To do that, add the team's won-loss record together and subtract that number from 162, the number of games in the season. Then add 1. After that, take that figure and calculate the difference between it and the number of games the first-place team is ahead in the loss column over the second-place club. That difference is the magic number. You know, the AP is absolutely right, but we like our own formulas better. New math. We'll have more on sports, the baseball races getting tighter, and of course, Howard's views on the NFL strike tonight at 11. Roger?
The $5.5 million lawsuit filed by female mine workers near Wheeling, West Virginia has been adjudicated out of court. The ladies charged the mine management males made peepholes in the walls of the ladies' shower room and that the holes were used and the women abused for 2 years. The amount of the settlement has not been made public. And in Baltimore, Johns Hopkins Hospital is giving free contraceptives to city high school students participating in a sex education program. Apparently, it's a laboratory course.
Coming up in just a moment when we continue with Eyewitness News, Roger Sharp will begin a special report on high-fashion modeling.
He calls it the ugly side of the beautiful world.
Great cars of Europe have long been priced out of reach. Now Renault closes the gap between European technology and affordability. Introducing Renault Alliance, with the rear wheels behind the rear seat to ride 5, not 4, and unique pedestal seating for extra legroom. Renault Alliance, European technology now built in America to be affordable. $55.95.
See the new Renault Alliance at your local New York, New Jersey, Connecticut AMC Jeep Renault dealer today.
Can that Powerhouse candy bar really fill you up?
They don't call it Powerhouse for nothing.
Bruiser! Can that Powerhouse hunk of fudge, chewy caramel, roasted peanuts, and chocolatey goodness tame your savage appetite?
They don't call it Powerhouse for nothing.
Kingpin, want a bowl of free game? Bring 3 Powerhouse wrappers to a participating center. Every other game's on the house.
I get it. Powerhouse.
It's Razzle, the race for the word game. The moving carriage shuffles the letters. When they stop, it's a race to find a word. And they're off.
Kiss.
Where?
K-I-S-S.
She made a word, so she pushes the carriage forward. And they're off again. Cage.
Magic. Star. Fire.
What a finish. It's Razzle, the race for the word game from Parker Brothers.
When massive subway delays hit the morning rush, which station do you head for? 1010 Wins. All news, all the time. If Hurricane Flora is headed for New York, where do you turn to get wind of it? 1010 Wins. The station over 2.5 million people a week turn to first. If the entire city is blacked out, who's still shedding light on the situation? 1010 Wins. The minute something happens, your first reaction is to reach for us first. 1010 Wins. You give us 22 minutes, we'll give you the world.
Iran says her war with Iraq will continue until her 4 demands are met. They are withdrawal of all Iraqi troops, identification and punishment of those responsible for the aggression, payment of war reparations, and the return of more than 100,000 exiled Iraqis to their homeland. Well, given all that, there are also reports the conflict between Iran and Iraq is about to escalate. The Dutch Army has again proved itself as most innovative. It was in the 1960s that the Dutch Army led the way by deciding its soldiers could wear long hair if they also wore hairnets to keep the hair out of weapons and machinery. Once again, the Dutch Army has proved its precedent-setting position. From now on, Dutch soldiers will be allowed to wear earrings.
Well, speaking of jewelry and hairnet and makeup and every feature perfect, makes us think of people working for hundreds of dollars an hour, the people who are called high fashion models, the people who live, we think, a life of high glamour. But they pay a price, too. And tonight, Roger Sharp begins a series of special reports on what might be called the dark side of success before the bright lights.
Beautiful. Beautiful like that. That's great.
God makes models. That's how they put it on the inside. Those fabulous faces and figures adored by a society in love with the young and the beautiful.
Whoa. Looking good tonight, Chiquita.
There is an unreal quality to much of the model world. It may be a cluttered studio and a dingy side street. But the beauty of the model becomes a centerpiece for fantasy, a frozen moment of make-believe that sells.
Hang on. That's nice. Very nice.
And we're buying that one face, that one body in 1,000 that provides the hook for products pushed by America's gigantic advertising machine. Models, in effect, playing a socially significant role in what we are, the image we try to imitate.
That's very cute.
Most frequently, sex is the sell. Change your scent, that lost lover will return. Make your mousy hair radiant with this rinse or that. Shed those boxers, wear these briefs, and girls will tear off your clothes. In the world of high fashion, a top model can achieve dazzling celebrity status. She or he is the face until the next one comes along. For the thousands of pretty faces fighting for the spotlight in a world of glittering unreality, the pressure is very real.
I was 18 when I entered into this business, and I've grown up really fast.
The molding of a model is a complex chemistry of ingredients. Being beautiful, being handsome is not enough.
It's totally business, this job. Has nothing to do with art.
Right place, right time, right look for the moment.
It's not secure at all.
Sometimes it's luck.
For me, it's been very easy.
More often, it's tedious, time-consuming hard work.
People say that you get sick of the business before it gets sick of you.
Inspired by burning desire, enormous ego, and perhaps, often enough, a willingness to pay the piper.
My head is going to need a rest tomorrow.
God's children or the devil's handiwork?
The success formula of the business is based on promiscuity. The success formula of the whole business is based on compromising one's moral standards. And the sooner they can compromise your standards, the sooner you can become successful.
A working male model we'll call Michael because he wishes to remain unidentified, tells us there is a seedy underbelly to all the pretty pictures. The big payoff really means a lot of little payoffs.
Clients want to see work. Clients have a lot of money at stake, and for them, they want the guarantee that the model can work. So, if you can imagine 1,000 or 2,000 girls in a city, in one limited market, all fighting for the same pictures, can you imagine what has to be going on, okay, to get these pictures? Well, I can guarantee to tell you that the photographers who take these pictures and the agencies who have the models, they know what has to be done.
Beautiful hair and makeup and a beautiful girl.
The whole model world is sodden with sexuality. Others don't deny there is at least a shred of truth to what industry defenders claim is a total media myth, focusing only on the fast-track lifestyle filled with drugs and sexual favors.
I'm not sure if my daughter decided to model that
I would want her to have to go through what I went through in the beginning and to see all the things that I saw.
I heard it's even worse now for men than it is for women. I mean, the business, a lot of the people in the business are gay, and you're dealing with a lot of the people, and I'm sure if you gave a little, put it nicely, they'd probably do you favors. You know, it's like one hand washes the other.
Ford.
The big three model agencies, Ford, Elite, Wilhelmina. They say it's a clean industry, selling a product. What their models get mixed up in has nothing to do with them.
There are seedy people in every walk of life and in every, chosen career. You'll always come across people that are beneath you.
Do you know that we have never been at a party where anybody pulled out a joint?
I think that the modeling world, in fact, is one of the most square, conservative worlds that exist.
We have a good industry. I think we have a much cleaner industry than media would have the world believe.
More dog walkers than coke sniffers.
I'm positive of that. Yeah.
Perhaps, perhaps not. But some models say the industry has them running right off the runway. Drugs a part of the business. Compromise a way of life.
A lot of girls get involved with a lot of drugs. They get taken in by the business, and it really goes to their head.
But the lifestyle does burn out.
Sure, it burns out. I went under once, but I came back.
Do you think you have to compromise yourself to succeed? Go to bed with a photographer? What'd you do? You obviously would think about it.
Yeah.
Tomorrow, beyond the compromise, the mechanics of model making. Roger Sharp, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Well, when we continue, we'll be looking at the weather.
And X marks the beauty spot. Josh Howell explains all that when we come back in a moment after these messages.
Starting for the New York Times, columnists Dave Anderson and George Vesey.
The new expanded sports pages of the New York Times.
Ira Bricka.
With features about players,
Joe Durso.
plays,
Laurie Mifflin.
inside scoops and outside observations.
And the Times Sports Department.
For sports writing that covers all the bases, reach for the newspaper that covers the world.
With Black & Decker's all-in-one, you can haul a chest, you can haul a drum, you can haul some logs. You can haul some dogs, you can actually haul 1/5 of a ton. With Black & Decker's all-in-one, you can have your leaves hauled by your son. You can haul near anything under the sun. The all-steel haul-in-one folds and stores in a snap from Black & Decker.
Now get a $20 rebate on Black & Decker's versatile haul-in-one.
When winter comes, the wind blows hard. Your hard-earned heat can end up in the yard without Stanley weatherproofing. Stanley seals windows, doors, top to bottom. Just the right seal for spots you've forgotten. Plugs for plugs, a wrap on the pipes. The heater, a blanket. What could be neater? For shutting out drafts, sealing odd shapes. Stanley makes the job easy, gets it done right. 'Cause Stanley seals the whole house. Seals it up tight.
Rebates up to $5 from Stanley at Rickle Home Centers.
When Mama Celeste had a restaurant, way back when, she made a special pizza for one, for neighborhood friends. Abundanza, that's abundance from Celeste.
Pizza for one.
Abundanza, making pizza with just the best.
Abundanza.
We're still making pizza for one.
Just for you.
Just for you from Celeste.
Repeating a pair of local stories tonight, police are searching for the killer of an 82-year-old Greenwich Village woman. The body of Hedda Saltzman was found in her apartment on Washington Place by a maid. Police say they believe robbery was the motive of the murder, but they're not sure. The Saltzman apartment was not ransacked. And in the Bronx, there is still no clue as to the whereabouts of 60-year-old Charles Tomlinson. He vanished after leaving home to go to work as a cab driver Saturday. Relatives who traced his route found his car in the Cross Bronx Expressway. The car apparently had been in an accident, but nobody knows where he is.
Stormfield on vacation. Dr. William Gooch at the map. Bill?
Thank you, sir.
This is my last night. Storm will be back tomorrow. We mentioned that for all of his fans. And I'll be back next Sunday. Rain overnight, some rain this morning, officially 37/100ths of an inch of rain at the airport here in New York, and greater and lesser amounts around the viewing areas. We got a bit of a soaking overnight. Some sunshine this afternoon. Right now in Central Park, it's rather pleasant. Partly cloudy skies and 73 degrees. The humidity 69%. The barometer is beginning to rise as things continue to improve. And the winds are southwest, and they're gusting up to about 16 miles an hour. Here's the way the rest of the numbers look. We got up to 78 today. 61 was the low last night. That's quite mild. Put us actually 5 degrees above normal for this date. The record high and record low, as you see, the record high back in the Dust Bowl days of 1933. And the record low back in 1957. Air quality today was good. Air quality tomorrow should be good as well. Satellite image to start us off with tonight. This one's sent down this afternoon, and we'll tighten in on the middle Atlantic states and see a good deal of cloudiness remaining around the viewing area. The rain, however, now in upstate New York into New England and beginning to move further and further away from us. Just a residual sprinkle possibly here and there in a few of the clouds that are left. I'd say a 10 or 15% chance tonight and through the day tomorrow, and that's about it. Some breaks in the clouds, however, as well. We saw those this afternoon, and we'll see more tomorrow. Here's the way the national map looks to diagram this thing out a bit. The low pressure that brought us the rain last night is now moving upward, and it's up in northern New York State. It'll continue to pull out. As it does, it's going to actually pull this cold front well to our north down and through tomorrow night into the day on Wednesday. And as we do, it'll turn a bit cooler during that period. We'll be back with the forecast, the details, in just a minute after these commercial messages.
Tomorrow on Good Morning New York, actor Burt Young talks about why he's looking to get out, the name of his new movie. And you'll be looking to get fit as we meet a stewardess in amazing shape. Join us.
Avis is trying harder to get your business. We'll even persuade you with a free travel bag or certificates good toward portable TVs, headphone stereos, and more. You may come to Avis for our free gifts, but you'll come back for our unlimited mileage and we try harder service. When you rent, just present this coupon you get from travel agents or airline magazines.
I'm David Mahoney, chairman of Avis. We're trying harder to earn your business, and it's trying harder that makes Avis second to none.
Which network news does America trust most? Find out as we reveal part 2 of a nationwide news survey in the new issue of TV Guide.
East side, west side. Dr. Brown's black cherry, celery, cream soda, the taste of the town. All around the town.
And now here's the forecast for the next couple of days. For tonight, variably cloudy skies, a 5, 10, 15% chance of a sprinkle, no more. Temperatures getting down into the upper 50s. Tomorrow, some sunny breaks here and there. Again, variably cloudy skies once more. Again, a very slight chance of a brief sprinkle. High temperature in the low 70s. Tomorrow night, partly cloudy. The cold front sweeps through. We get a bit cooler, down around 55 in the city. Probably around 50 in the outlying suburbs. And Wednesday, not a bad day. Intervals of clouds and sunshine on the breezy side, and with that cold front moving down from Canada, a bit cooler but not bad, high 65 to 70 degrees. I'll update you at 11. Storm will be back tomorrow. Right now, back to Roger.
Well, we're told that this season one of the new beauty trends isn't really new. It was popular in the 20s. It's made a comeback. Josh Howell says you'll be seeing a lot of it on faces this fall.
They are all marked women. They are wearing beauty marks. Oh, marks are nothing new. They are now making a comeback. In the 18th century, they were sometimes called assassins because of their effect on a man's heart.
She has beautiful eyes already, so to enhance it, just by putting a drop on the corner of the eye, we draw the attention to a pair of very exotic eyes.
Yes?
I like it, but I don't think I would wear it or put one on myself.
Why?
Because it's not me, and it's rather large.
Well, perhaps a dainty dot.
Maybe, yeah.
How do you feel when you're wearing it?
How do I feel? Provocative. I don't know. I think it's cute. I'd wear it.
Why?
Because it looks cute. Bubbly. Cheerful.
Bubbly?
Yeah, it makes people smile. No?
Or they're laughing at you or with you?
Oh, with me. I always bubble when I walk down the street.
That's just one more bubble.
That's one more bubble.
Would a man be caught dead with one of these dainty marks?
I feel very comfortable with it.
How would you describe yourself? Take another look.
Halloween.
By taking the mascara and just touching the end of the mark, look at the difference it makes in her lips. It really brings them out tremendously. She also has, as you can see by her throat, a darker beauty mark, which can enhance the neck and throat area. And also, by using our Fiorenti patch, by placing it on her bust line.
Of course, they can be worn elsewhere, but we just ran out of the marks. Josh Howell, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Hoping your news is good news, I'm Roger Grimsby.
ABC's World News Tonight is next on Channel 7. I'm Bill Butel. Thank you very much for being with us this evening. Good luck and be well.
Join Roseanne Scamardella and Storm Field on tomorrow's 5 o'clock Eyewitness News and meet New York's newest multimillionaire. That's tomorrow at 5.
There's one German word that's on everybody's lips. Beck's. The #1 imported German beer.
Here in reply to a Channel 7 editorial is Paul C. Dorsonville, Executive Director of the Haitian Centers Federation, New York City.
In a recent editorial, Channel 7 supported the passage of the Simpson-Mazzoli immigration bill. While there are some positive aspects to this legislation, we feel that there are major problems with the approved Senate version of the bill. The bill proposes to legalize undocumented persons now in the U.S. in order to give them a new start. However, it arbitrarily restricts these benefits to persons who arrived here before January 1st, 1980. The Haitian community urges that no discrimination be made between undocumented persons and that everyone here up to 1982 receives the same benefits from the law. We are completely opposed to the portion of the bill that allows for the summary exclusion of persons who arrive at U.S. frontiers and ports of entry. Everyone arriving in the U.S. must continue to be allowed to explain their plight before an impartial tribunal. For the first time in the history of the U.S., this bill would deny the fundamental right of the person to secure judicial review of the INS administrative decision of the case. This right is not a luxury. For people fleeing the region's most cruel regimes, it represents the difference between life and death.
That was Paul C. Dorsonville, Executive Director of the Haitian Centers Federation, New York City, speaking in response to a Channel 7 editorial.
Tune into Macy's Every Kenwood sale for 40 to 50% savings on every Kenwood stereo component and complete audio system. Capture the brightest sound.